Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 97. Bob Hunter, you got a business loan? The right way to spend it on staffing. Hiring offshore. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are rejoined by Bob Hunter. Welcome back.
Hey, everyone. Happy to be back.
So Bob joined us for episode 92, which wasn't that long ago. This should probably be episode 97, I think. And he was excited to just get back into the mix and continue our conversation. Because I think we mentioned we were going to have a part two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we had our conversation, I was on podcast number 2 with you.
Yes, that's right.
And so now this is number 14. So
are you 14? Oh, so that was where I was going to start. I was going to see where you're at in this journey to 100.
Yeah. 14 in. So I'm trucking right along. 86 more to go. I'll get there.
It's good to have goals because he's got that 100 goal you talked about in the last episode. Yeah. Yes. So that's awesome. And so I don't know if this counts though. This is like Is this counting for 14? Can you do my number 2 and number 14 or?
I would say yes, because I guess the goal more than having 100 separate podcasts is having 100 times that someone can learn about our companies on a podcast.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's what gives me the statistic that I need. So yeah.
So we could have you on 20 more times. We can help you get that goal.
I mean.
If we never run out of things to talk about, let's do it.
Right. But
no, this is great. That's great. So just, for the other people doing guesting out there and stuff, is there, you're 14 in, and is there any big lesson you've learned along the way, or what has your experience been so far?
Well, I'm less nervous now. I think I was telling everyone before, when I was right at the very beginning, this is not my thing. I like to sit behind my computer and create things. That's it.
Yes.
That involves talking to no one usually. But now that I've done it all these times, I would say that our messaging has gotten better, just because I've had to repeat the same message over and over again. We have gotten feedback on what we need to be, talking about, like what people are interested in, what questions they have, things like that. And I'm just developing a better plan as I continue to build on it podcast by podcast. So it was a good marketing strategy, and we're still at the beginning of it.
That's good, because it's kind of, as you're doing this, I think you're sort of forging your story in a way. Like you're testing your story, or you're getting better at telling your story by the reactions you get, or just repetition. So that's very cool. Yeah. Well, it's let's actually pause for a second, because I don't think we told the audience yet, anyone that hasn't seen your first one, like what you do. You are the founder of Oxford Pierpont and mybusinesscredit.com. We know that. So what do you guys do?
Yes. So Oxford Pierpont is a business development firm. We basically kind of act like a doctor would, where you go to your doctor, you tell them what your problems are, your symptoms, and the doctor's job is to understand those symptoms, understand the cause, and then prescribe the solution. So we take the same type of approach. We basically listen to whatever you said your challenges are with your business. We figure out the cause of that. And because we do this so often, it's usually not hard to figure out what the cause is. Seconds. And then we make the prescription, of, hey, the thing that will solve your problem is this. It's more money. It's better marketing plans, better website, it's better staff, better, legal or accounting, whatever that is. And we then organize those resources so that the client's problem does actually end up getting solved. And then that's it.
Nice. And do you use software to help you with that, or do you provide software in that regard, or like is it like one-on-one consulting type deal?
Yeah, it's so it always starts out as consulting, and then
Okay.
depending on what that solution is, certain people will need different things.
Gotcha.
So, and that's all just Oxford Pierpont. Now, because of the pandemic, we ended up actually splitting Oxford a little bit because we almost did not survive the pandemic, like many businesses that actually went out of business, because we are, I guess, a nice-to-have service, as a lot of people would consider it sometimes. I know that I need marketing, I know that I need consulting, but when money's tight, those things have to go. Because paying people might be more important, or delivering whatever service it is more important. So our pivot was into finance, because if everyone was saying that they needed money, the logical thing was, hey, let's sell money. Everyone apparently wants the money, and so that is how we eventually got into mybusinesscredit.com. That is the brand that is just for small and medium-sized businesses who are looking for funding. And 90% of people, just full disclosure, do not end up qualifying, but the reasons that they don't qualify are usually easily fixed, and we guide people through those reasons. We guide people into resolving any of those issues that they have so that they can try again. So that's what we do.
Well, that's an amazing service. Yeah. Well, that's good because it like as a business owner or anybody, you need a loan or you need credit. You just go straight to the bank and try, and then you fail, and well, what am I going to do now? But you're filling that need of somebody actually guiding. Yeah. That's amazing. So, and probably, I don't know, our demographic here is probably a lot more smaller businesses. Maybe some big businesses listen to us. Got some lessons to learn. We can teach.
Yeah.
But just we don't need to go into a big recap of stuff we kind of covered on the first episode, because they can go back and listen to that episode too. I would listen to that first, actually. Pause this and then come back to this one.
Yes.
But in that episode, we did cover things like, how to, I think, pre-qualify or how to get a loan and things you can do in your business to improve your credit so you can get loans. Right. Do you remember, do you want to recap kind of that side of things? Like maybe some highlights, take like 3 minutes,
sure.
5 minutes?
So I just mentioned that about 90% of people will end up being disqualified. And the biggest reasons are lender compliance, which is basically the lender's way of verifying that you're even a real business. Because statistically, looking at it from their perspective, they just want to make sure they're giving money to people who are going to pay them back and not default. And so lender compliance is kind of like a good way of just getting rid of anyone who would be likely to default because they haven't even done the basics. Basics like having a dedicated business address, having a dedicated business phone number, having a business bank account, not mixing the money with your personal account, making sure that you actually do have a legitimate yourname@yourcompany.com email address instead of something free like a Gmail or a Yahoo or a Live account, just because that indicates to the bank, like, okay, so you're still at a stage where, even if you are a real business, you're still not at the point that you should be where these basics are just handled. So all of those kind of make them feel like, hey, you're going to default. So lender compliance, knocking out that stuff. The other big thing that we talked about is your credit. So a lot of people, they are thinking, hey, I'm going to go get an LLC, just put my EIN on everything and never have to put my real credit on anything. So therefore, I don't need to fix it. Not true. So we talked about making sure that you actually do fix your credit to the point that it is 680 or higher, because unless you are a super qualified business, you're always going to be asked for that personal credit, just because what else is the bank supposed to base your credibility on if your business doesn't have the track record already? So we talked about that, and boy, we talked about a lot. So
well, I gotta like a bullet list. Well, we talked about you too. We talked about your story and journey, so that was very interesting too. Unique situations and stuff. We talked about funding and funding sources, and I got a little bullet list. I'm cheating over here. So some really good ground. kind of laying the groundwork to getting yourself a loan
Right.
and what that looks like. Today we're going to talk about where we left off, but we actually might have a bonus topic today because we were having a conversation before we started hitting record here about staffing a little bit, but it kind of ties into what we're talking about because that's what you're going to use the funds for. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But basically, it's what we're going to get into here is so you got a loan, or you're going to get a loan. I suppose you got to decide how much you need, and what do you use loans and financing for in your business? What is critical to be in place? What is critical to think about when just getting a loan? What should it be paying for, and what should what are you investing in, et cetera. So I'll give it to you to start that conversation and tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Sure. So one of the first questions that we ask actually when a person's looking for funding is, hey, what do you want the money for? And the biggest reasons that people are looking for a loan are payroll. They've got to be able to either hire people or cover their payroll. They are at a stage where they could be growing if they had access to more inventory, or they could be getting better prices for their business if they were able to buy more inventory in bulk. So that is a big reason, being able to handle things like that. Being able to buy equipment. So you might be in a company that, well, the processes would run better, or we would be able to operate better if we had this certain type of expensive equipment or whatever it is. So that's a big one. Vehicles are another big one. Often, if you are in some kind of transportation or just travel heavy industry, maybe you're a real estate agent and you need another car, or you need your insurance, you need another car, whatever it is, or you need a truck because you're a contractor. That's another big reason that people will get loans. So basically, staff, products and services, and then just growth. Those are the big three categories for why a person is looking for a loan and what they're likely to use the money for. Yeah.
So there has to be that should be defined. Like there should be some real connection to either it's going to increase. It's going to be clear that it's going to help increase revenue or let you accomplish things that you're not able to do now. But if you get this loan, this chunk of money, you'll be able to invest in something that will allow you to do more and be more efficient. Like investing in software, investing in if you're a techie, or in equipment and stuff like that. Payroll is huge though, and that's something that it is probably it's probably common. Obviously, it's common, but you could do that wrong, right? You could get a loan to hire somebody. To just hire somebody to help you, sweep the floors or something, and it contributes to revenue. That's something I always try to tie everybody to revenue on my teams and stuff like that.
Same thing here. I always give this analogy of an apple tree because the one seed produces a tree with multiple apples, and each of those apples has like 5 seeds in them, which can then further produce another tree, and it just goes on and on from there. But none of that stuff happens if you couldn't grow the first tree. So I always look at money being the same way. If you're able to, use that money as that first seed that then produces, the tree that then produces more apples or more fruit, whatever it is, and then that fruit now bears its own fruit, now you're in a good place where your money is turning into more money. Your money is growing. It's almost like compound interest. The more that you're able to plant and actually grow effectively, the more it produces for you so that you can repeat the process. Every dollar that you send out should bring back $3 more at the very minimum. And if it's not doing that, it's a good idea to kind of pause and think about how you are running your business and how it's actually going to generate profit in a way that is going to make sense for the long term. So.
Yeah, I think, to be successful and have longevity, you have to think about these things because it's easy to spend money on resources and they're not generating money. Like in my agency, we're almost we're finishing up year 4. So we're still alive, going into year 5. But in the beginning, it was just me. What's that? Make or
break year. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to make it. But in the beginning, like, and I'm in a unique, probably industry or niche or whatever of web design development. So it's very easy for me to actually do the craft. And in the beginning, it was just me. And when the only time I would actually bring somebody on was via a contractor that I knew there was money in that project to be able to afford that, bringing that person on to do it, or allowed me to do things in parallel. And then as time went on, I hired some employees, and they obviously were brought on for specific revenue related reasons.
Smart.
One was brought on for it to be a dedicated resource for one client. She's still here 2 years later. But that she was paid for because it was within the monthly contract, right? It was there. Yeah. It wasn't something like I was just out of thin air hiring somebody to do stuff. It was very tied to some sort of revenue. I've had, like my VA, when I got her, shortly thereafter, it was another scenario where I knew that for me to bring her on, I wanted to be able to, it wasn't going to happen right away, but that she needed to contribute to our revenue, to actually bringing in, getting me in front of people. That was part of her job too, is to help me with marketing and so on and so forth. So every person I've added, there is a reason to add. And this next week, Monday, actually, I'm hiring my 6th full-time person. And we're not huge. Oh, wow. We're a small little company. But I'm bringing on a full-time developer. Good, we're rocking it. But so Monday that's happening. But I was, as I was talking to people about doing this, the question was posed, do you have enough work for this person? Do you have, is this person going to bring in revenue and make us money, right? Not going to just bring them in to bring them in. And the answer was obviously yes. We got a pipeline of projects we need to do, and if we're going to do it, we're going to need another body. So we had to do some shuffling and figure that out. But it's always that I don't just think in terms of, just hiring somebody to fill space or to make my job easier either. Right. It's like, I shouldn't be doing these things. People talk about that all the time. Give people things you don't want to do. That's good. But those things that you don't want to do, hopefully is actually contributing to your bottom line. So, so it's fun.
Also look at it as buying people's time as well, because there's only so much that I can do with my 24 hours. If I was a normal person, you're supposed to be sleeping for 8 of those. So you've got 16 waking hours, and some of those 16 hours you're supposed to be spending with family and, living life. And ideally you're only working for 8 of those. So you're limited to your 8 hours, roughly. And if you buy someone else's time, now you get their 8 hours and this other person's 8 hours and so on and so forth. And if you're actually productive and you're able to teach other people to be productive, now spending money to buy time is like the best thing you can buy because it's kind of like the apple tree. It just goes on forever if you're doing it right. So yeah, I like building the team part because, if you are doing it right, you're able to grow your company at a rate that you could never accomplish by yourself just because there isn't enough time in the day. So.
Yeah. There's multiple reasons. I could have stayed a freelancer and just done stuff myself, but, number one, I don't like saying no to projects. Number two, I have a vision for it, but I have a vision for, the size. I don't have any vision to build 1,000-person team, to do stuff. I still want to remain boutique. We have a good body of clients and agency partnerships and stuff that we do stuff for. and that there is room. We want to grow more, but it's just, but it allows me to also have more depth and experience. I got people on my team that are better than me, which is good at certain things. It's especially in the web development world. There's so many different. Every web developer has a different experience, different skill sets. They're better or worse, but having a diverse crew like that to handle things is good, and it does allow us to grow. But part of this too is also like the figuring out the route. Like if I need somebody, how do I get that person? But tying this back to so kind of going back to our original question here, and investing, like if somebody were to invest or get financing to hire somebody, see, I'm not doing that, right? I'm hiring somebody when the work's there and the revenue's already there. The money's coming in as a contract or something like that. So I'm not going out and be like, okay, I'm going to get a loan so I can hire somebody for 6 months and not worry about it. But I would imagine there's scenarios where you have to do that though, to get ahead of things.
Yeah, like if you're hiring a salesperson.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of how I did my VA situation.
That's the lowest hanging fruit I can think of, because I actually do that a lot, where I need a salesperson for whatever it is that we're launching, and that is often something that is really expensive, because you have two models. You've got either you're going to pay them commission or you're going to pay them some kind of base. The ones that you pay a base, they work better. The ones who are commission are lower risk, but they tend to not engage with the job as much. And it's hard sometimes to get around hiring a salesperson without having just the income first, because that salesperson is usually going to lag for a little bit while they acquiesce to your company in particular. Even if they already have experience in the industry we're talking about, they still have to acquiesce to the way that you're doing things at your company. And that can take up to 90 days. So, so you do need to have a little bit of money in the piggy bank for something like that. And that's just one scenario. There could be plenty where you've got to hire people before they're actually going to do the work. Like if you're in a service-based industry, or if you're in some kind of manufacturing industry or anything, why you'd have to hire people. And then you're just kind of hoping that they actually do a good job and they get a hold of the training in a time that is fast enough for them to outpace any losses that could occur if they end up being just a horrible person. So it's a bit of a gamble sometimes, and having funding makes that a little bit easier, because you can breathe a little bit knowing, okay, I'm not living payroll to payroll. Everyone's always worried about paycheck to paycheck, but employers, sometimes payroll to payroll, like, do I have enough to cover payroll this week? Just barely made it. That is real.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's, being in business is about managing risk, really, right? And and you don't want to invest in something, and that's an investment in your people. You don't want to invest in something that's going to bury you. You have to think about worst case scenario. What if this person doesn't work out? And am I going to? That shouldn't be putting you out of business if they don't. So you have to start with a foundation. Whether that's getting a loan and knowing that you can pay that back, that is within your ability to do that month to month, or because you don't want to risk the farm, just trying to scale up your team and hope for the best. Yeah. So,
well, also you want to make sure that you are exercising phenomenal planning, taking the time. Excuse me. Taking the time to do things like a SWOT analysis, a feasibility study, a business plan if you have the patience for it, or at least a marketing strategy. Because in the example, going back to that salesperson, it made no sense to hire a salesperson if you weren't able to, from day one, say, hey, this is the process, this is the training for this process. These are the targets that we expect based on actual data, right? You're not just kind of shooting numbers like, oh, I want you to get me 10 sales a week. Based on what? And that'll help you actually grow your business in a way that is less risk in the first place. Just having good planning. A lot of people do not. I talk to a lot of people, and I mean, part of why they're calling me is that they want me to provide them with a plan. But still, you'd be surprised how many people just go hiring or spending money on things, and then it's like, I probably should have thought that through a bit more. And then the money's gone. So, that's a good way to run out of the money even after you've been funded, is you had no plan, basically, is what I'm saying.
So, and also, I think if you can prove it first before hiring them, right? Like if you figure out how to do something like this next year, we actually launched some products this year. We're going to actually market them next year. But figuring that out first, like doing some advertising, testing the waters, and with the team we have now, and if something works, then okay, now we can invest in that. Hiring somebody to scale that up because it's already proven on some level. I've had businesses in the past where I've done this wrong. I remember one specifically where I had, and this is just naivety, like lack of experience or thought or a plan or having a plan. But I back in the 2000s, I did a lot of niche marketing and stuff, and this is a completely different model. And so a big part of what we were doing was doing a lot of research and then building niche sites, small little targeted niche sites, put them out there. And it was a lot of content, a lot of research and SEO stuff and all that good stuff.
Gotcha.
So there was this model I was testing and building myself. And I had this, and it was a proven model for other people. And it was sort of working. I was making nickels and dimes, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw some resources at it. I think I hired like 2 people to help me build this out, because if I can do more, we'll make more. That didn't work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was proven enough. I didn't get it to a certain point where, okay, now I can, it actually pays for those people or anything. And so I think I had them on payroll for like 9 months or something. And it just, I'm like, I look back at that. I'm like, well, that could have contributed to our issues financially back then.
Just random people. A little, yeah. Were you doing rank and rent sites, or was it something else?
What were they called? They were literally, we had like software we used to generate these sites. And so quickly, what were they called? That was a long time ago.
I think I know.
So you were able to spin up these sites. You were able to spin up these sites really quick. That part of it, but also you could get cheap GoDaddy domains. So they were like keyword domains, so very, very focused. We'd use tools to do the keyword research to find these little niches, and then it was about trial and error. About I literally launched hundreds of these things, of these sites, and you dump the losers, you keep the winners, kind of thing. That was a kind of mentality back then. And it worked in other realms. That was kind of my thing with pay-per-click and affiliate marketing. So it kind of was the same thing, but it was more on an SEO side, which didn't work out as well. But so these guys I had one person building the sites, and then I had another person actually creating the content and getting the content each week.
I see.
So they would do that stuff, and I was the one getting doing the research, getting the domains, getting things rolling and planned, and so
that
it
seems like
was
a good
good.
Model. What changed? What ended up going wrong? Because that sounds like a decent model.
Google back in those days, there was this thing called an algorithm.
So I know a thing or two.
So, and over time, over that decade, a lot changed with Google, even on the pay-per-click side and Google AdWords and all that. They had some updates that kind of delisted those type of sites. There were 2. They could tell. They were probably a little spammier. They were. I tried to do it. Have quality content on them and everything, but I don't know. It just stopped working within that time frame. That was part of it. And yeah, I mean, at scale, it should have worked out pretty well because there were like 99-cent domains and, it was not much of an investment to get them up and running.
Gold mine.
Yeah. But I think maybe I was a little too late to it or something happened. And plus I had other things on my plate. But
was this all before or after 2018?
Well, this was like 2009, 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. It was the Wild West back then.
Yeah. No, I go back like 20 years. Yeah, I was like, that was the 2000s. So I started doing, how I got into internet marketing and doing internet stuff. I started, it was back in like 2004, 5.
Gotcha.
I started doing affiliate marketing with AdWords. And I saw a lot of, in the beginning, we drove a lot of that traffic direct to merchant. And so it was, again, at scale. So that was kind of my thing at scale. We would do a lot of keyword research, build keyword lists, create ads and put them out there. And it did really, really well. Those were real Wild West days. But as time went on, then you had to have a landing page. Then there was this quality score thing. Then there was this, so it get harder and harder and harder to a point where by 2010, 11, I also taught this too. I was doing it and teaching it. But I started to have to teach a lot more about how to reopen AdWords accounts when they got banned or closed, because
I see.
We weren't technically doing anything wrong. We didn't change anything we were doing. We were doing legitimate stuff. But what would happen is, because we were quick and fast and everything, we wouldn't do our research about certain merchants. And so if we would start promoting a merchant that Google didn't like or whatever, they would just derail the whole account.
Guilty by association.
Because you'd look at a sales page, you'd look at a website, it looks fine on the surface, but underneath, Google had flagged that site as bad, and now you're promoting them. So kind of weird things like that happened. It became very difficult to do that model. So I think I was trying to pivot to doing other things like these niche sites. And I never really, that's why I ended up becoming a web designer and developer in 2012. I cashed out and I cashed out. I got all those lessons. Yeah, right. I don't know if I was ahead. No, good times, good memories. Yeah. So, but that goes back, like in those days, a lot of lessons too. Like I had, I had partners and stuff. So that was our thing where we'd split revenue and things like that. So I was not really hiring employees. I had junior partners, and so they'd get a piece of the profits. And so the money had to be there. So I was always, but this was kind of the first time I had hired to help me with these niche sites. When I hired, it was Philippines. But we're going to talk about that a little bit, about hiring abroad. And we could talk about that now. Let's chat about that a little bit and your experience with that, because we were having this conversation beforehand. I'm like, I can relate to that.
Sure. Well, so we were just kind of talking about the fact that for business owners in the U.S., if we're talking about wages, the conversation usually has to start at least $10 an hour. If you're still trying to pay people less than 10, knowing what inflation looks like and how the conditions are in the market in 2022, you're just doing a disservice to the people that you're hiring. So at the very least, the conversation starts at about $10. And then even for that, you're expecting to get someone who's not the most qualified or educated, because, it's the minimum. I always put it as the minimum wage should really just be for the minimum skill sets. And people who are, as you're acquiring more skills over time, your wages should go up. It's not really how it works in the real world, but that's, an ideal situation. But the conversation being started at $10 means that at the least a business owner is paying $400 per week for anyone that they're hiring. And if they're paying someone a more generous amount, like $15 an hour, Now you're talking about $600 a week that you have to budget for. And this person hasn't done any work yet. This is just what the base cost is. So what we've done is we've cut that cost in half, where our VAs, they start at $237 per week for 40 hours.
But by the way, and the reason he says hour is because I don't think we mentioned the fact that you have a staffing service. That was what I was surprised by.
Yes, so there's Oxford Pierpont Capital, just Oxford Pierpont Incorporated, and then staffing. Staffing was added originally because we needed to be able to put all of our people under one roof for payroll and tax reasons. And then it started getting into this, hey, why don't we hire other people for other companies? And now it's more than 2 years, and now we've expanded into VAs because of the entire thing about how wages are and dealing with small business owners, small, medium business owners for that. So with our salary starting at about $237 per week, and you're getting full-time 40-hour work from someone who's, in many cases, college educated, that ends up being a really good deal. Because remember, you were going to have to start the convo at $400 for an American. Now, the one thing we can't do is provide U.S. workers at that rate, because, again, that brings us back to the $10 an hour. But our people are all offshore, where the exchange rate is a little bit better. I will actually be going to the Philippines myself next year to meet my team in person. Oh, yeah, I've been learning how to speak Tagalog and everything, so it's
fantastic.
It's been awesome. Yeah. You know, so if I say, like, for example, magandang tanghali, that is, good afternoon.
Wow.
So I'm learning.
That's impressive. Yeah.
I try to talk to my team in their language as much as I can, just for my practice. But we always make sure everyone that we hire has really, really, really great English. Not necessarily good enough to fool an American ear, but definitely would not piss off an American ear. And what I mean by that is, everyone can probably relate to this. There was like a whole decade, probably more than that, where if you picked up the phone to call about your internet or your TV or, any kind of customer service thing, you got somebody in India. And then there was this huge language barrier in those years where you'd be saying something, the call will take forever because you keep on having to translate, and it's just frustrating for a lot of people. So there's like a whole generation of people that as soon as they hear a customer service person or anyone over the phone that is like not obviously a native English speaker or at least close to it, it just makes the whole conversation go sour because they're like, can I speak to someone in the U.S.? Can I speak to an American? Something like that. So that is something that we filter for. And then, of course, if you're wanting to buy in bulk, like meaning that you're paying by the quarter or by the month or by the week, the prices just adjust from whatever whatever scale you're paying at. And we do all the management. We handle payroll. We do the time tracking. We give you screenshots every 3 minutes of whatever they've been doing. We provide the phone system with unlimited calling for every single person. We provide remote computers, so they're able to, like, you can literally log into the computer and see at any time what they're working on, what's going on, in addition to the screenshots. All of that for the lowest is $237 per week. So yeah, that is what we do, and that really helps business owners grow without having this big bill, because you're able to get 3 of our people for the price of 1 average American.
That's the secret. That is the secret.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I was so, kind of my ears perked up when you started saying that you were, talking to me about this before a call or before the recording is because I have most of my employees, all my employees are abroad, split between Philippines and India. India, I also have an agency partnership there and stuff. So
Wonderful.
This is my whole world the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I did it because of the ability to do more, and obviously, well, especially in tech, like you're talking about $10 an hour. I'm not getting a $10 an hour web developer.
Yeah.
It's not happening. If I start at 25, maybe. So maybe my front end developer with a couple years experience at $25 an hour, maybe. So if I bring somebody, and now in the beginning, I did actually use contractors here in the US, but you're talking $40-$50 an hour. So the money has to be there in the project. And I do want to hire, US. It's not that I don't want to. In fact, I'm going to need to for certain key positions over time, to replicate myself, kind of.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a huge help. And like, I have a VA from the Philippines. I have the dedicated resource I think I talked about earlier for a particular client. They're from the Philippines. The other interesting thing with me is that once you build a small unit, a small team of people, and this is kind of, maybe I shouldn't be saying this because people want to. I want people to go to you for your services. But no, once you build a small team, like I use, I started with a website I'd known about for over a decade, onlinejobs.ph. That's where I got my initial.
Resource from there as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, but once you have a team, now whenever you need somebody, you can go to that team and say, do you know anybody? Because if you have a quality person already in place, they might know another quality person. And that's been the case. I had one refer me to a friend, and they're still working here, and that friend referred me to somebody else, and so that's a good thing too. But then I also pay a little bit premium though on some people because of the management component to this. So it's really. Even though I do have an in-house where I manage them, they're my in-house team, but we also have a relationship similar to what sounds like you're talking about here, where somebody actually helps manage and find those resources for me, and able to connect me. And I have a couple full time from this resource, but we've built a relationship over the last couple of years where they're dependable. They can, if I need somebody, they can find it. But is that something similar to what are you doing specifically for a business owner? Do you help them with that whole, it sounds like you're doing a lot in terms of helping them manage a team like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do just about everything. So we have 2 different pricing tiers, just for people who are general skill sets, your everyday executive assistant kind of VA, data entry, cold calling, basic skills. And then there are the ones who are more specialized. Maybe they're specialized in web development. Specifically, they do sales, things like that. Even our premium pricing, though, still beats the $10 an hour minimum wage for the U.S. And when a person says that they want to work with us, we actually provide them with an email that has a link to the potential candidates that we already have on staff. That goes to our website where you can see a full profile where this person has added their work history, a photo of themselves. They've actually got a recording of themselves, so you can hear their voice before you even talk to them. And while you're looking at that, within a few days, we'll also source new people that are specifically what you asked for. And then we have the interviews. So you go and you have a chance to meet everyone one at a time. They usually take like 5 minutes, so it's not the longest conversation ever. But you have an opportunity to talk to that person. Then they get hired. We deal with all the payroll stuff, so you don't have to. And we set them up on their time tracking and their phone and all that good stuff. And then that's it. So from there, it's just a matter of you saying what it is that you want this person to do, like you would any other person that's working for you. Mm-hmm. Making sure that you've given them enough work to cover 8 hours. And then at the end of the day, they send an end-of-day report so that you know, hey, I'm actually getting my money's worth, and at the end of the month, you're able to review, see all the reports in summary, and say, okay, so this is what this person's been doing. I'm definitely getting my money's worth, all while still being cheaper than the U.S. costs. This is for remote positions only, but it still is a significant thing if you did need a salesperson or you did need someone to do some accounting. or bookkeeping, or you really did need someone to do cold calling or handle the phone in general. There might be a dentist somewhere, right, who's like, oh man, I have to pay, someone $10 an hour or even $12 an hour just to answer the phones. Little things like that. Not to say that I want to take any jobs away from Americans, but at the same time, inflation is real. It is expensive to be able to hire people, and that's often a very big reason that a small business cannot grow as they would have, because they just cannot afford to have a team. So if you're able to grow your business and have a team, and be able to do it in a safe way, why not? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think about it sometimes, could I condense all these different, 6 people now into one person? That probably would be the same. Maybe 2. I could probably,
maybe 2. Yeah.
Maybe 2. I could probably hire 2 Americans for, but it's something that allows you to do more upfront. That's not to say that, like I said, I have a dream to have a U.S. based team, but this will make it possible because I'm able to scale things up in the beginning. And it's been critical to my business. I think, there's a lot to learn there, especially if you're managing them yourself. And the reporting thing is very important. I think that's a critical service you're providing there, that, cause even internally that, it's important to, it's not that you don't want to say you don't trust your employees or the people working for you, remote workers or whatever, but you want to have some insights into daily activities and what they're kind of doing. And I do that especially
trust
for developers.
Yeah,
trust but verify. I like that. Yeah. But just to see too, and plus it's a kudos thing. It's, if I don't know you did something awesome, I'm not going to be able to say, hey, good job,
right.
So Bob, this is going to require a part 3. I feel like we're going to have whole one on staffing now. I'm actually going to kind of take all that. Okay. So we started on this path. So this is a great conversation. I think it's really important. I think a lot of people can benefit from a service like that, but also just the thinking about things that way, that it's okay to think abroad. And yes, cheaper labor and stuff, but it's also the quality you can get, in other countries is just as high. They're still human. There's still the same capacity to learn. And sometimes you have to teach them more, but it takes a little bit more time, but, they can be as good as anybody, like I said, I have developers, and outside the U.S. that probably are better than me. Yeah. They probably are.
Well, it depends on where you hire too, because each country has like their, I wouldn't say specialty, but there are things I like for different countries. Like if I'm looking for someone to handle anything digital marketing, I'm running straight to India. If I'm looking for someone to handle anything software related, I'm running to Pakistan. And if I'm looking for anything people related, I'm running to the Philippines. So
I just had that is so funny. So I knew I had a conversation about Pakistan with somebody, and I couldn't think. I'm like, was that Bob? Who was it that said something about they were getting people to software related from Pakistan?
Yes,
because I'd never heard of that before, or nobody said Pakistan specifically. I've had developers from Romania and other countries too, in over the years. But so what do you think? That's interesting that you kind of, different countries are, you've kind of identified as better for certain types of work, and why is Pakistan like so good at software, do you think?
Well,
why do I need to go find some people from Pakistan?
Well, I don't know why they're good. It's just that I've had multiple experiences that were very positive dealing with people in Pakistan as it related to software. Whereas when I tried to accomplish the same types of things with people from India, it was not the same. And then if I was trying to do things that were digital marketing related, social media related, anything like that, people in India excel once you get past the language barrier. And then for other things like customer service related, where the accent is so important, That's where the Philippines is wonderful, because I cannot find anyone at that rate with that level of English anywhere else. That I know of. I'm sure there are other places, but that I have experience with. And then even if I'm going to go further into like just software and website development, Ukraine is really good too. So our tech support team, a lot of them are in Ukraine. When Putin invaded Ukraine on February 24th of this year, I know the date because it was terrible for me too.
Yeah.
I didn't hear from them for, it had to be like a good 3 or 4 weeks almost. And I was like, oh man, are they actually still alive? Like, I was so worried. Everyone's fine. But there was like this huge gap of like just nothing. So that is the one downside to hiring outside of the U.S. If that country should fall into conflict, that would be problematic. But who could have predicted? A full-scale war. Yeah.
But I think that's kind of all your eggs in one basket kind of thought process too. That's why I like the fact that I've had good experience I have good developers from India, so I'm happy with what I've found there. But it may just be luck or just a numbers game. But I'm interested in
everyone
Pakistan.
Can't be terrible.
Right. Somebody, right.
Yeah.
If you hook up with the right person and the right organization or whatever. But yeah, Pakistan's interesting. Are they comparable in rates that like India or Philippines for? Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I worked with someone in Pakistan, the software that I bought, I was prepared to pay like $3,000 at least. This guy says the thing is $50. Are you kidding me? I was like, that just sounds dramatically, like, are you meaning per month forever? Like, what is the catch? Then I actually get the software, because I pay for it, it's $50. I'm over here and ready to pay $3,000. And it's actually like perfect. It's everything that I wanted. We ended up using that software to call, to contact every mortgage broker in the United States. That was back in 2019. And it was perfect. And it was $50. And I was like, wow. Then I asked him to do some custom stuff for me. I was thinking, okay, well, how much is it going to be? Thinking again, it should be a few $1,000s. But no, it was, I think the total bill was like $500. And I'm just, like, what? So, I would say the prices are comparable.
Yeah, I would say so. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's it.
Incredible.
Like, you can't, you can, you almost feel, I don't know if it's guilt or you feel bad. Like, I would love to hire somebody in the U.S. to do this for you, but you're in business. You have to have profit. You think about revenue and all that. Yeah. If you can do something that's going to advance your business or growth or whatever, and whatever aspect of your business, by spending $500 versus $5,000,
right.
What are you going to do?
Exactly.
That's not a hard choice.
Yeah. And for people that are interested in finding capable workers like that, the two biggest sites that I would recommend outside of onlinejobs.ph are Fiverr and Upwork. Fiverr is good in particular because they tend to be way cheaper, and there's a reason for that. So let's say that you are someone who's just starting out in your career as a web developer, or, a lead gen person, or making logos, or whatever it is that you're buying from Fiverr. That person is there because they don't have the vast experience in many cases. Some people have vast experience and still stay on Fiverr, but the prices that they're charging are lower because they're building up their portfolio. So that's one thing to consider. But the good thing about Fiverr is you can hire like 3 or 4 people for the same job and just, take all of them, and then the ones that do a good job, you keep it. The ones you don't, you say, hey, Fiverr, I want a refund. And Upwork does not allow you to do that so easily. Upwork, on the other hand, though, has more experienced people. And when you post a job on Upwork, you're going to get way more bids, and they all have to bid against each other. So it does bring the price down a little bit. But Upwork is, I'd say, if you have a more serious project. So, pro tip for anyone who's looking for that kind of hiring.
Yeah, I have experience with both. I haven't used Fiverr as much. I've tried a few times. I think I was, even from a web developer perspective, I even tried started to set up my own account there. I don't think I ever did anything. Maybe I did one or two things. But Upwork I've done a lot with too. Not recently, because I've built my team, but that's it. That is definitely a good source. When I first started out 10 years ago now, really, transitioning and becoming web developer, designer, freelancer, I was on Elance. I don't know if you remember Elance.
Yes,
I think
the original Upwork.
The original. I think Upwork existed, but they merged together. And,
yeah. Elance was the bigger one at the time. I don't know if I would say bigger because they did get eaten by Upwork, but they were the more popular one. I'll put it that way.
I built a great portfolio. I was doing a lot of business in the early days on Elance, and then they got absorbed, and my profile, I don't know whatever happened to it. It's like gone.
Oh, wow.
So I had to start over. But
I need to check on my portfolio.
Yeah.
Oh, are we out of time? Yes, we are out of time. Wow,
no,
sorry.
we're not out of time. We're not out of time, but I think we should wind down.
Yes.
I don't know how it's 55 minutes already. And we went into, I wanted to talk about your staffing and payroll and all this, and that turned into a whole conversation. So I almost rewound at one point, and then we kept talking. So this is great. This is awesome. I'm not complaining. This is great stuff.
It's not this easy with everyone, so kudos to you.
To both of us. We've hit it off, as they say.
Yep.
So let's do this by kind of recapping what originally sparked this conversation. What you spend your money on when you get the capital to invest in, and definitely,
yes,
people is one of those things, and we've dug into that quite a bit, and how you can actually save on that, and how that ties into your services and stuff, which is great. Can we? Like I said, I think we're going to have a part 3 now. Can we maybe end this session with, maybe a couple other, we mentioned equipment and any other things that advice you have in terms of how you would invest your funds, your loan or whatever, to help you either with growth or these other things. What would be the other maybe top 1 or 2 things or something?
I mean, honestly, I would leave it there for quite a bit, but use that money to establish business lines of credit. You can put that money into a certificate of deposit, and then use that certificate of deposit to secure a business line of credit at the bank. So that gives you 2 uses out of the same dollar. That's a big thing. It also helps with the bank rating, because part of the reason the bank is going to say no is that you don't have enough money in your bank account on an average 90-day basis. So they're looking for you to have at least $10,000 just at all times in the bank, at the minimum. And if you don't, that lowers what's called a bank rating. Okay. Well, if you've got this now lump of cash sitting from the loan, you can leave that in that savings account, the certificate of deposit savings account that has that high interest, but still put that cash into the block, the business line of credit, so you're still able to actually use it. And then, of course, that's a revolving account, so you use it, you put the money back, you use it, you put the money back, and now you have ebb and flow credit history being formed. Now, after 90 days of this, you can literally take that wonderful history you have with Bank A, run to Bank B, and say, hey, look, Bank B, I've got all this money. I am very well funded. And here's the last 90 days of me handling my accounts on time. Give me an unsecured loan. Oh, sure, Mr. Hunter, we'd be happy to. And so they will give you money if you already have money. That's the craziest thing I've thought about funding. The people who really don't need it as desperately can get it so easily. And the people who need it the most, like they really need it, they have the hardest time getting the funding, because people want to give more money to people who already have proven that they can handle money.
Already have that track record.
So work on proving that you are in that category, that you can handle money, and then it gets easier. So that would be the last takeaway, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it at this, but you have inspired me even from the first session. I actually have scheduled a talk with my banker on the business side to talk about lines of credit and stuff like that to help me improve my credits and stuff like that.
Yes.
As we talked about probably in the first episode, I'm very cash centric.
Yes.
Everything, if I don't have it, I'm not spending it. That's how I was kind of run things for 4 years. But at the same time, I recognize the value of being able to build that up and long term.
Yeah.
So you've inspired me to do that, and hopefully somebody else listening in and listening to these conversations also are inspired to do that as well. So, well, great having you, Bob.
A good conversation.
Yes, I have this feeling, I have this sense that we're probably going to be talking again. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, hope so.
Yeah, and good luck on your journey with your podcasts. I can't wait. I want to celebrate with you for number 100. So
I should throw a big party with like all 100 podcasters, or if it ends up being 100, or how many ever it ends up being. Hey, I'm throwing a big shindig. All tickets or all expenses paid. Join me in Mexico.
All right.
That'd be cool.
You don't have to ask me twice. All right. Well, until next time, Bob. Thanks again.
Until next time, thank you so much. Bye.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.